Hey, welcome again to A Shortstop with a Shortstop. Today we have some special guests with us. We appreciate Gabriel Dindy stopping in with us today. Gabriel is from Lakeland, Florida. He's a football player, but most of all, we appreciate him as being a brother in Christ. Gabriel is rated the 10th best player in the United States and the second best football player in the state of Florida. He is verbally committed to the University of Oklahoma, and he's can't wait to get started and just knocking heads with people and enjoying playing football for 4 years and getting his education. But we also have with us Brother Craig Ratliff. Craig is the youth minister here at the Paintsville Church of Christ, and he's one of our deacons. And we're going to be asking Gabriel some questions and getting his feedback, and Craig's going to ask some questions. And we're just going to have a good time with talking about God here. And a little bit of football mixed in there with it. In football, for a football team to be successful, it's important for each player to do his job on the field. What about the church? How can the members of the church help make the church more successful?
Yes, sir. What I would like to say is that, you know how you have to, in football, everybody has to do their part. Like we say, a defensive lineman's best friend is a DB, because once the DB stays on the receiver long enough, that gives us time to be back there. And once we get back there, the D lineman, it helps them to get interceptions. So it's a team effort, because you can't do one without the other. So just like we have the elders, the preachers, the deacons, and the members, they all have their roles and what they need to do. Like the elders have to lead the flock, and the deacons have to serve. The preacher has to minister unto the flock, and then the members have to do the things that they need to do, like spread the gospel during their time, and then also not cause any conflict in the church.
Very good answer. Now, Craig was wanting to ask you a question when you all first met.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
And Gabe, you know, it's good to see you again and talk with you. You remember and recall, and I brought this up to you several times before when we've talked, you know, the first time that you and I met, and we were talking about, you know, your recruitment and some of the schools and things or whatever. And I was asking you a couple questions at dinner, if you remember. I can't remember the name of that pizza place in Texas. Do you remember the name of it?
I don't, but I remember the place, yes.
The pizza was good, wasn't it?
Yes, sir, it was.
But we were sitting there talking, and you hit me with a statement that I'd never been hit with before. Anytime I'd had those conversations about college recruiting and sports and what have you, and you just came out and said, but that's not what I'm about, and that just, it floored me. It uplifted me, and it made me just think, wow, this is such a great statement. Can you elaborate a little bit on that, and that, you know, kind of give us why you say that and why you feel that way and what it is exactly that you mean by that?
Most definitely. My meaning behind that is sometimes people, they allow sports to just take over their life, and if sports is gone, they're gone, like, as a person. I just like to say, like, just like Job had all the things, he had all the riches, he had all the things that he really needed, but after all that was gone, he still remained faithful. So that's what I was thinking, as in, my main goal is to live my life faithfully and be able to get to heaven one day, because that's eternal and that's after this life. And this is right, all this materialistic stuff like football and it can be any aspect in life that we all like and enjoy, that it could easily take over and blind us from the main goal, and that main goal is us getting to heaven one day.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I'm glad you mentioned, too, it could be any aspect of life. It could actually be our relationships in life, things that we're involved in at work and at school, or depending on, you know, age thing or age situation here. But you're exactly right. And we appreciate you so much and having that stance and being who you are, being a man of God. And I think Coach is wanting to also ask you about a situation where the Oklahoma coaches came in and were visiting with you.
Yes, sir.
The head coach, did you take him to worship service with you?
Yes, sir. I took the head coach, D-line coach,
Wow.
and also recruiting coordinator, and I did that also for Texas A&M too.
And that's awesome.
That is.
But question I want to ask you, did he pay attention?
He did. They even took notes, and they told us all about the sermon right after we got done with it. So, Brother Christian, his name is Christian in Lindsay, Oklahoma. We went to that congregation, and he wrote down notes, and he told us how much it meant to him. And then my dad preached at the College Station congregation at BCS, and he preached a real heartfelt sermon. And so they also talked about that, coaches at Texas A&M, and that really touched them. And they still talk about that sermon until this day. So
yeah,
I'm going to continue to try to be an example in their life, being a Christian example.
That's awesome. I think I've talked to Terrence a little bit about that, and I think he said that you guys had a little bit of a Bible study with that assistant coach at Texas A&M. Is that the one?
Yes, sir.
That's amazing. That is just absolutely outstanding.
I want you to know that you made our congregation famous. We saw on the internet you were with Bob Stoops.
Yes, sir.
You had our Oath shirt on when they took
Yes,
a
sir.
picture of you. I don't know whether you remember that or not.
I do. Yes, sir.
That's awesome. I want to say we appreciate that. You and Lonnie Jones, we see you guys pop up on the internet, and it's like that Oath T-shirt. He has one of the first Oath T-shirts that we've done, and he wears it all the time and loves the feel of it. And we appreciate you wearing that. And I know you love the T-shirt, and I know you guys love the time that you had here at Oath, and we appreciate you guys coming here.
Yes, sir, most definitely.
Here's a question. I know there's a lot of rules in NCAA when it comes to recruiting.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us about just a few of those rules that you have to really stick by and always stay close to? But does being a Christian help keep you from breaking any of those rules? And does Christians have rules to follow also?
Yes, sir. Some of the rules in NCAA, I mean, a lot of them changed during COVID when all that big COVID stuff came out. There was like dead periods, so you couldn't go visit schools at this time. And then any money or anything like that in a situation of recruiting, that's definitely a no. And so if you get caught with that, you could be in big trouble. Also double recruiting. I mean, anything like that, or even taking stuff from the school like gear or anything too big, that it will, I mean, you can also get in trouble for that.
The second part of it was, do Christians have rules that they've got to go by?
Yes, sir. Most definitely. I had something written down. Oh, yes, sir. Here we go. John chapter 14, verses 15. If you love me, keep my commandments. Those are also the rules. And then John chapter 12, verses 48. That's another one that kind of focuses on the aspect of rules. And we, as Christians, we usually like to pick out rules, the ones that I would say the ones that sometimes we kind of pick the ones out that are not as specific, and we kind of like try to mess with it and say that we don't really have to do this if you don't want to, and all that type of stuff. And we usually like to pick and choose, but at the end goal, if God said that is a rule, and like it says, if you love me, keep my commandments, then we will do that. And so that's a big part in it, because I see that, I mean, you talk to somebody or a Christian, and I mean, they're usually good on the big stuff, the stuff that everybody really knows. But then on the small stuff, like maybe modesty or like some language that you say, or some things that you would say, they kind of are a little sketchy on that. And so those are all rules in the Bible that we could see clearly.
In 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 24, Paul uses the word running a race.
Mm-hmm.
But also the writer of Hebrews, in Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 1, uses the word run the race with patience. As an athlete, how can you or any of us be an example to those that are not Christians?
Yes, sir. Just during your time being with those athletes, because you're going to be with anybody if you're in high school or college. Definitely in college, you're going to be with your teammates most of the time. And a big thing is not really verbally. I mean, yes, that does help, but like through your actions is probably one of the main things that you can actually help people. They see that you are doing great and you are leading by example and not going around partying and all that stuff. They kind of draw themselves toward that. It's kind of hard to stay away from somebody like that when they're always giving out good positivity and stuff like that. So I would say definitely through your actions, that is a great factor during this process.
Well, that leads me to my next question.
Yes, sir.
And this is a tough one.
All right.
Teenagers are tempted all the time. And how do you handle the temptations that Satan throws in front of you, and especially with social media, evil friends? Like 1 Corinthians 15:33 says that evil companions will corrupt good morals. Good
morals, yes, sir.
Yes. There's always that in crowd. You know what I'm talking about? The people
yes, sir.
that everybody wants to be around, but a lot of times that's the crowd that the Christian needs to stay away from.
Yes, sir. All right, I mean, this is a great topic, and I do love talking about this because this is what I spoke on a little bit briefly when I came down to do y'all's lectureship at Oath, and it's not as easy as it sounds, but when you say about the bad examples and what we need to do as Christians, and not everybody, I mean, we're going to have friends outside of the church, but not everybody is going to be great. But you need to find those people with the good morals. There's always a little group that's always doing something bad, but there's always groups that congregate together. Good people attract good people. Bad people attract bad people. So eventually, if you say you go into that bad group thinking that you can be an example, eventually those people are going to have effect on you probably faster than you're going to have effect on them when they're doing bad things. So what I recommend is that you find people that have those same morals, or even if you have those Christian friends that you hang out with, because that's always a big part. So y'all, like it says, iron sharpens iron. So you want to be with somebody that's just as strong as you are.
Yeah, that's really, really good point. And, you know, I kind of want to talk a little bit too, and let you hit on this as well. We touched on a little bit, you know, talking about social media and things like that, and evil companions corrupt good morals. You know, nowadays with the technological era, a lot of people, I guess you can kind of consider their cell phones as their companions.
Yes,
because, I mean, they spend the majority of their time on that. That's who they get the ideas of how they conduct themselves in public areas and with other people. I mean, that's where they're getting all their ideas. So what do you got to add to that?
Definitely. Yeah, social media is definitely, because as much time as kids spend on social media, there's different things on there. There's no telling what's going to show up on social media. And you should kind of find the things that should be able to censor those things. But we find stuff on social media. We look at stuff. The thing that we have in our head in this generation is that we need to be accepted by somebody. So we continue to try. I mean, we can't convince ourselves that we aren't good enough. So we like to have other people's opinions on us, and those opinions are not always bad. If you let those things get to you, there's always going to be haters. Because I have a few haters myself. People try to say stuff about how I'm not really that good or anything. And I'm like, all right, you say what you want to say about me. I mean, it really doesn't matter. And so those type of things that's what we struggle with, is letting people get to you, but you really don't need the reinsurance from other people. I mean, to God, you are the perfect person, and that you will always be great. And so that's just another thing that we need to kind of ease back on, is trying to be accepted by other people. Those good groups are going to encourage you. I know, like I say, I have some groups. We have like good friend groups that I've had since my childhood. We all mess with each other. We tease with each other. Those things are fine, but at the end of it, we know that we all love each other. At the end of all the teasing and stuff that we do, so that's the thing. Those two go together, like social media and all that stuff. You just need to find the good people that you need to be around.
Absolutely, and that goes back to what you were talking about, where iron sharpens iron. And I've heard your dad use that term several times as well. And it reminds me, if I can just take a moment here, Johnny's daughter, Brandy, sent out a text to our family, and it was exactly pertaining to what we're talking about now. It's like, and it says, next time that you barbecue, after the coals are nice and red hot, take about 6 of them out and set them aside. Then set just one of those coals aside and watch what happens. You know what happens, Gabe?
It goes out.
Yeah, that one by itself, it goes out. And that group of six stays strong and stays hot. And we can kind of relate that to exactly what you're saying. That group of that commonality in God and that commonality in spirit, if we stay strong together and fellowship a lot with one another, then that fire stays hot within us. But if we can separate ourselves out, the opposite will happen.
Thank you again, everybody, for being with a shortstop with a shortstop.